2 eggs every single morning. Sounds perfectly healthy, right? That's exactly what millions of people over 50 are doing right now. And for some of them, it's one of the best decisions they're making for their body. But for others, that same breakfast is quietly working against their heart, their cholesterol, and their arteries in a way they won't feel until it's already become a problem. Here's the part that makes this so confusing. Both groups are eating the exact same food. The difference comes down to something so specific, so overlooked, that even well-meaning doctors rarely bring it up during a routine checkup. After 50, your body processes egg cholesterol differently than it did at 30. Your liver changes, your hormones shift, your inflammation levels respond in new ways. And that changes everything about what the right number actually is for you. In this video, you're going to find out what really happens inside your body every time you eat an egg after 50, what the research actually says about the safe limit, what common mistakes are canceling the benefits, and the one thing you must know before you crack another egg tomorrow morning. Stay until the end, because the final point is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most important of all. Now, let's start with the truth about what an egg actually is, because most people underestimate how nutritionally powerful this one small food really is. A single large egg contains around 6 grams of high-quality protein, all 9 essential amino acids your body cannot make on its own. Vitamins B12 and D, choline for your brain, lutein for your eyes, selenium for your immune system, and about 186 milligrams of cholesterol, all packed into roughly 70 calories. That is an extraordinary amount of nutrition for something that costs less than 25 cents. For adults over 50, every one of those nutrients becomes more important, not less. After 50, your body absorbs certain nutrients less efficiently. Your stomach produces less acid, which affects how well you break down and use protein. Your muscle mass naturally starts to decline, a process called sarcopenia. And high-quality protein from eggs is one of the best tools you have to slow that down. The choline in eggs supports memory and brain function at a time when cognitive health becomes one of the most important things to protect. The vitamin D supports bone strength and immune regulation. The lutein and zeaxanthin protect your retinas from age-related damage. So yes, eggs are genuinely good for you, but the moment you ask how many is too many, the answer becomes more layered than most people expect. This is where the confusion begins. For decades, the public received one loud, simple message. Eggs raise your cholesterol, and high cholesterol causes heart disease. So eggs cause heart disease. That message spread fast, and it stuck. Millions of people over 50 were told to limit eggs to 2 or 3 per week. Egg white omelets became the safe option. Whole eggs became something you were supposed to feel guilty about. The truth is, that message was based on an oversimplification of the science, and the science has moved on significantly. Here's what actually happens inside your body when you eat an egg. Your digestive system breaks down the egg and absorbs the dietary cholesterol. That cholesterol enters your bloodstream. But here's the part nobody explained. Your liver is already making cholesterol every single day on its own. In fact, your liver produces far more cholesterol than you will ever eat in a single day. And here's the critical detail. When you eat more cholesterol from food, a healthy liver compensates by producing less of its own. It is a self-regulating system. Your body is not passive, it responds. For roughly 70% of people, eating 1 or 2 eggs a day has little to no meaningful impact on LDL cholesterol, the kind commonly associated with cardiovascular risk. The dietary cholesterol in eggs simply does not have the dramatic effect on blood cholesterol levels that people were warned about for years. But before you take that as a green light to eat 6 eggs every morning, there is something important that changes after 50. A subset of people, researchers estimate around 25 to 30% of the population, are what scientists call hyper-responders. Their livers respond differently to dietary cholesterol. When they eat more cholesterol, their LDL does rise more significantly. And after 50, the likelihood of being a hyper-responder increases. Hormonal changes, particularly the drop in estrogen during and after menopause, affect how women's bodies process cholesterol. For men, testosterone decline has similar downstream effects on lipid metabolism. This is why two people can eat identical diets and have completely different cholesterol results. The real surprise comes next. Not all LDL is the same. When researchers started looking more closely at what eggs actually do to LDL, they found something important. Eggs tend to increase large, buoyant LDL particles rather than small, dense LDL particles. Small, dense LDL is the type most strongly linked to arterial plaque and cardiovascular risk. Large, buoyant LDL is considered significantly less dangerous. So even when eggs raise LDL, the type of LDL they raise may matter more than the number on your blood test alone. On top of that, eggs raise HDL cholesterol, the kind often called good cholesterol because it helps transport excess cholesterol away from your arteries and back to your liver for removal. An improved LDL to HDL ratio is generally a positive sign for cardiovascular health. Many egg studies show this ratio improving with moderate egg consumption. Now here's why this matters more after 50. As you age, your cardiovascular system changes. Arteries naturally become a little stiffer. Blood pressure tends to rise. Inflammation, the low-grade, chronic kind, becomes more common and harder to control. This inflammatory background is what turns mildly elevated LDL from a manageable issue into a more serious one. And this is where eggs get nuanced, because eggs themselves contain nutrients that fight inflammation, including choline, omega-3 fatty acids in pasture-raised varieties, and antioxidants like lutein. So the egg is not simply a cholesterol delivery vehicle. It is a complex whole food with both potential benefits and potential risks. And the balance between those two sides depends enormously on what else is happening in your body and your diet. This is where most people make the mistake. The biggest dietary mistake people make with eggs is not how many eggs they eat. It is what they eat with the eggs. Bacon, sausage, processed cheese, white toast, hash browns cooked in refined oil. All of these items contain saturated fat and refined carbohydrates that do far more damage to your cholesterol levels than the egg itself. Saturated fat, not dietary cholesterol, is the primary driver of LDL elevation for most people. So someone eating 2 eggs scrambled in olive oil with spinach and avocado is having a very different metabolic experience than someone eating 2 eggs with 3 strips of bacon and buttered white toast. Even though both people tell their doctor they simply had eggs for breakfast, if that surprised you, the next part is even more important. After 50, one of the most overlooked consequences of egg consumption is not about cholesterol at all. It is about blood sugar. Eggs on their own are low glycemic, meaning they do not spike blood sugar. In fact, the protein and fat in eggs slow gastric emptying, which means food moves more slowly from your stomach into your small intestine, leading to a more gradual and controlled rise in blood glucose after eating. This is genuinely beneficial for anyone managing or trying to prevent type 2 diabetes, which becomes significantly more common after 50. But here is where the blood sugar benefit gets quietly canceled. When you eat eggs alongside refined carbohydrates, white bread, sugary juice, sweetened cereals, the blood sugar spike from those carbohydrates still happens, and the fat from the eggs can slow the clearance of that glucose from your bloodstream. The result is a longer period of elevated blood sugar. Not dramatically dangerous for most people, but for those managing insulin resistance or prediabetes, it matters more than they realize. The practical fix is simple. If you eat eggs, pair them with vegetables, healthy fats, or low glycemic carbohydrates like whole grain bread or sweet potato, rather than refined white products. This keeps both your cholesterol and your blood sugar response working in your favor instead of against you. And this is the part almost nobody talks about. Eggs are one of the richest dietary sources of choline, a nutrient that the majority of adults over 50 are not getting enough of. Choline is critical for producing acetylcholine, one of the brain's primary neurotransmitters involved in memory, learning, and muscle control. Low choline intake in older adults has been associated with increased risk of cognitive decline, poor memory, and liver health issues. 2 large eggs provide close to 300 milligrams of choline, more than half the daily recommended intake for most adults. For older adults worried about brain fog, memory lapses, or protecting their cognitive function as they age, This single nutrient from eggs may be one of the most valuable arguments for keeping eggs in the diet consistently. It is not a cure, but it is meaningful, consistent nutritional support for a brain that needs more resources, not fewer, as the decades pass. Now let's talk about what the research actually says about the safe number. Multiple large studies, including meta-analyses that pooled data from hundreds of thousands of participants, have looked at egg consumption and health outcomes. The consistent finding for generally healthy adults, meaning those without pre-existing type 2 diabetes or established cardiovascular disease, is that eating up to 1 egg per day is not associated with increased risk of heart disease or stroke. Some studies, particularly those conducted in Asian populations, found no increased risk even at higher intakes. For adults with type 2 diabetes, the picture is slightly more cautious. Some studies show a modest increase in cardiovascular risk with higher egg consumption in diabetic populations. Though the research is not unanimous and some scientists argue this association disappears when overall diet quality is controlled for. For healthy adults over 50 with no diabetes and well-managed cholesterol, 1 egg per day, roughly 7 per week, appears to be a safe and beneficial target based on current evidence. Some people do well with up to 2 eggs daily, but going beyond 2 whole eggs per day on a consistent basis, especially without monitoring your cholesterol levels, is where individual variation becomes harder to ignore and harder to predict. This is not a one-size-fits-all answer, and that is the honest truth. Now, here is the big mistake that cancels every benefit eggs can offer, and it is far more common than you think. Cooking method. The way you cook your eggs changes their nutritional profile in ways that matter significantly. Scrambling eggs in a pan coated with butter or low-quality vegetable oils adds saturated or omega-6 fat that directly affects your cholesterol and inflammation levels. But the more serious issue is this: frying eggs at very high heat oxidizes the cholesterol in the yolk, converting it into compounds called oxysterols, which are far more damaging to arteries than regular dietary cholesterol ever was. Oxysterols promote inflammation, damage arterial walls, and are much more strongly linked to cardiovascular plaque formation than the cholesterol you have been warned about your whole life. The safest cooking methods for eggs are poaching, soft boiling, hard boiling, or cooking them gently on low to medium heat in a small amount of olive oil or avocado oil. These methods preserve the nutrient content and minimize cholesterol oxidation. If you regularly fry your eggs at high heat in butter every single morning, you may be unintentionally turning a beneficial food into something that works against you. Not because of the egg itself, but because of the way you are preparing it each day. And now the bonus tip that most people never hear, and it is one of the simplest changes you can make starting tomorrow. The best time to eat eggs for people over 50 is in the morning or early afternoon, not late at night. Here is why. Your body's insulin sensitivity, meaning how efficiently your cells respond to insulin and pull glucose out of your bloodstream, is highest in the morning and declines progressively through the day. Eating protein-rich foods like eggs earlier in the day supports better blood sugar control and helps keep you fuller longer, which naturally reduces the urge to snack on high carbohydrate or sugary foods in the afternoon and evening. Evening meals heavy in protein and fat take longer to digest, which can interfere with sleep quality in some people by keeping the digestive system active during the hours when your body should be focused on cellular repair and recovery. Additionally, eating adequate protein at breakfast, which eggs provide beautifully, has been shown in multiple studies to reduce overall caloric intake throughout the rest of the day. For adults over 50 who are managing weight, energy levels, or blood sugar, starting the day with eggs rather than cereal, toast, or pastries is a consistently strong choice backed by real evidence, not a trend, not a fad. Actual research on how the aging body responds to protein timing. So what does this all mean for you practically? If you are a generally healthy adult over 50 with no history of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or significantly elevated LDL cholesterol, 1 to 2 eggs per day prepared gently, poached, soft-boiled, or lightly cooked in olive oil, paired with vegetables and without processed meats, is a reasonable and nutritious daily habit. The protein supports your muscles, the choline supports your brain, the antioxidants support your eyes, The effect on your cholesterol for most people in this category is either neutral or mildly positive when the overall diet is clean and balanced. If you have type 2 diabetes, existing heart disease, or a history of high LDL cholesterol, the conversation becomes more individual. One egg per day is still considered safe by most current guidelines, but monitoring your cholesterol response over time and discussing your specific intake with your doctor is genuinely important, not as a formality, but because your liver's response to dietary cholesterol may differ meaningfully from the population average. And if you are unsure whether you are a hyperresponder to dietary cholesterol, the simplest way to find out is to eat one egg per day for 8 weeks, then get a full lipid panel done. If your LDL rises significantly, that is important information about your biology. If it stays stable or your HDL improves, you now have real data specific to your own body, not a generalized recommendation designed for everyone. The goal is never to follow a rule blindly. The goal is to understand what your body is doing and make choices that serve your long-term health, your independence, your energy, and your ability to live well in the years ahead. Eggs have been eaten by humans for thousands of years. They are affordable, accessible, deeply nutritious, and when prepared well and consumed in reasonable amounts, they are one of the best whole foods available to adults over 50. The science does not condemn them. It simply asks you to be smart about them. 2 eggs in the morning with sautéed vegetables, a side of avocado, and a slice of whole grain toast is not a cardiovascular risk waiting to happen. It is a genuinely strong breakfast for a body that needs quality protein, brain-supporting nutrients, anti-inflammatory antioxidants, and steady energy that carries you through the morning without a crash. But 2 eggs every morning alongside bacon, white bread, sugary coffee drinks, and no vegetables is a different story entirely. And it is not the eggs doing the damage. Small decisions, made consistently, shape your health in ways that compound quietly over years. The egg is not your enemy. Not understanding how to use it well is. Now, before you close this video, here is a question for you. And please leave your answer in the comments because this community genuinely benefits from real experiences shared openly. How many eggs do you eat each week right now? And have you ever noticed any change in how you feel, your energy, or your digestion when you eat more or fewer of them? Share it below. Your answer might help someone else figure out what works for their body. If this video gave you something useful today, please give it a like. It helps more people over 50 find this kind of clear, honest information when they need it most. And if you want to keep learning how to eat smarter, protect your heart, and support your brain as you age, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. The next one covers another breakfast habit that may be quietly affecting your blood pressure every single morning, and you will not want to miss it. Your health is worth understanding, and understanding it starts with exactly this kind of question.